Welcome back. So today I'm going to finally record the video that so many people have been asking me for, and that is a step-by-step applique guide on the Brother PE800. So I've done some applique videos before, but I've always kind of done them sped up. One of the reasons why is just because it's a lot easier to edit. It's just easier just to like cut some stuff out and just hit fast forward and put some music to it and it's good. Another reason is just because I like sped up videos. Like, I think it's like a human nature thing where you just, you like to see something completed, like from beginning to end, but you don't have the patience to watch the whole thing, so you just like it sped up. So I watch like a lot of craft or building videos or something, just sped up. Plus I like listening to music while I do it. Kind of like watching those guys, I don't know if they're like in India or Sri Lanka or somewhere, where they're like building those underground grotto cave pool things. Especially if you watch them like at 3 o'clock in the morning when you can't sleep. You know what I'm talking about. Just watch videos where people are just making things. So that's what I've kind of done, is just, you know, made videos where I'm making things and just speed them up and put music to it. But people have been asking me for a step-by-step guide of what am I actually doing. So I'm going to do that today. But just disclaimer, I am not an expert on the subject whatsoever. Please check out, if you haven't already, Angela. Her YouTube channel is Angela Jasmina, and also Pamela. Her YouTube channel is Sterling's Style. I have trouble with S's. But they do a lot of applique, a lot of embroidery, and they have just a wealth of knowledge. So you really want to check them out. But I'll do what I can today, share with you what I know. All right. So we are going to start off with Embrilliance. This is the program that I use. And this design I'm doing today, it's Puppy Dog Pals. It's for a little girl's 2nd birthday. Her name is Gianna, and she loves Puppy Dog Pals. So what I did is I purchased the design on Etsy, and then I changed the colors to what I wanted and based on the threads that I already have. And then I printed out. If you're in Embrilliance and you just go to File, you can go to Print, and it'll print out this here. And what this does is it shows you based like exactly what the size is actually going to be, and then it prints out like all the steps. So this is applique, right? So you start off with a position stitch, then a tack down stitch, then a satin stitch for the most part. So it shows you all of those steps, and then it also shows you all the colors that you picked. So I was able to use this. You see, this is a very, it's like in-depth applique here. There's a lot of steps to it. So I was able to use these and get my threads that I needed. So I already picked those all out. So I went through, I only put in the system threads that I had, like colors that I had. So I already picked those out and I put them in order that I'm going to need them. So those are here. I have needles here. I'm going to start with a fresh needle because it's really in depth of a project. So I'll show you how I change the needle out and how I cut everything up. But for right now, please hold. What I usually like to start off with is cutting out all my applique pieces, so that once those are done, like I don't have to keep getting up and going back and forth to the cutting table. I can just have everything here in my workspace and grab it when I need it. So let's do that. That's my sister there. Say hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa.
So, here's my cutting area. I just have like a cutting mat here, a rotary cutter. So the reason why I have this here is because this is the size that I need for everything. And that's important because you don't want to use too little material or too much. Yeah, too much. Because, for example, if I want to do this tan color for the dog here, which one is that dog?
That's Bingo.
Bingo.
No, it's
Rolly. For the Rolly dog. Say if I was using this piece of fabric and it was too small, then it would mess up my whole design. Like his feet would be cut off or something. If I have too much, it's fine. It's just more cutting. And it's just more waste of material. So I try not to waste too much because I can use it for other projects. So for this project, for this number 2, I'm going to use this beautiful pastel rainbow. This is applique vinyl. or embroidery vinyl, I should say, I'm sorry. And I actually got this from Angela's website, which is kidscustomdesigns.com, so please check that out. This stuff, you can embroider with it, and you don't have to put anything on the back, because once you press, it'll adhere to the shirt. Now, this stuff, whatever material you want to use, you're going to have to put something on the back in order for it to adhere to the shirt. So what that stuff is this right here. It's called Heat and Bond Light. So N, like heat and bond light, right? So you have to cut both your material, your fabric, and your heat and bond to the size that you need. And then in order to adhere the heat and bond to your fabric, guess what you have to do? You have to heat it. So I'm going to start off with this, since this is the biggest thing I'm doing, is this number 2. So I know I need it at least this big, and I kind of want to get all colors on there. Also, I think I'm going to go this way.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Horizontal stripes instead of vertical stripes. So I'm going to make sure that I get it like that. Okay, if I cut it there, it's more than enough of what I need. You can use regular scissors, fabric scissors probably better, but this just makes your life so much easier. And I always cut it a little bit bigger because you don't want to, like I said, to end up with not enough material. Then there, I should have enough. Okay, so for my other applique here, I need a light gray for the dog. That one's Bingo. Bingo. And then this, a darker gray for his mouth, a light tan here, and a light brown here for his mouth. So I have these 4 colors here. This tan is about his size, honestly. I don't think I'm going to cut this. I'm going to be lazy right now. I got enough to do. So that I'm going to leave to size. This I'm going to leave to size. But of course these are really small. So I only need like a little square, a rectangle of each. Oh, somebody gave me a tip in the comments to not bring this to me, because it's already sharp and you can hurt yourself. And I'm very accident prone, so I'm going to take that tip and cut away from me. And that's more than enough. Okay, so I have the sizes that I need. And now what I need to do is apply heat and bond. So I have to cut this down to size. My advice, don't cut a piece bigger than your fabric, because this sticks and it'll stick to your heat press. That happened to me before, or your Teflon sheet. I'll show you that in a minute. So you'll see there's one side that's just kind of papery and one side that's got like a texture to it. That texture side is what you want face down on your fabric, because that's what's going to stick. Okay, so now I'm going to heat these up. This is a heat press. I believe you can do this with a regular iron also. It just works better with the heat press. So put your fabric down, your heat and bond on top. Again, your textured side should touch the fabric. And then I always put a Teflon sheet You can get these for real cheap on Amazon. I ruined one time again because my heat and bond was too big for the fabric. Ooh, make sure they don't come off either. Stay where they need to be. I have mine set to like 315 usually. It never stays exactly at 315. See, it just went 309, 311. But just press it for about 5 to 10 seconds should be fine. So it should be stuck on there. They're really hot. So just take them off for a second. Let them cool down. Then get your shirt. So this is a 3T puff sleeve girl shirt from AJ Blanks. Get those at ajblanks.com. So you want to find the middle of your shirt because that'll help you line up your design. So just fold it in half. And kind of line up your corners. And smooth it out. And still, always put your Teflon sheet on top. And just go ahead and press that for a couple seconds. So that not only does that kind of like iron your shirt for you, but then it gives you the middle line down the middle of your shirt, which we'll use in a minute. And now grab your fabric and you're going to go ahead and pull off the back of the heat and bond. So now it's on your fabric. So if you could see how it's shiny, no heat and bond, heat and bond. So make sure when you place the fabric, you got the heat and bond on there. And what this does is when you stick it on the fabric, at the end you're going to heat it and it's going to adhere it to your fabric better. To your shirt better, I should say. Okay, so I already worked with the design in Brilliance. I could probably do another video on that another day. But right now, so I saved it to this flash drive and I stopped the flash drive, you know, on the PC. So now I can remove it. And I can take it and insert it into my PE800. Go ahead and turn it on. Hit the button, hit OK, stay out of the way. Okay, so to get to my file that I saved, you're going to hit this like USB symbol. And it's going to go through all the designs I already have saved in here. So you use these buttons. See, this is page 1 of 3 is what it's saying. So use these buttons and go all the way over, and there it is right there. I can see it's really blurry, but I can tell that's what I want. So I'm going to hit set. And what that's saying is, this is my 5x7 hoop. These are the smaller hoops. It's saying that no symbol basically is saying, no, you cannot do this design on those because it's too small. Those hoops are too small. So everything should be how I need it. I shouldn't have to do with any settings here because I already did it all in Brilliance. So the next thing I just want to do is hit edit end. This is if you want to move the design around, but it's good. I already set it up in Brilliance. So here I'm going to hit embroidery. And so now this is the screen where I'm going to actually do the embroidery. It's telling me that it's going to take me 40 minutes and there's 30 different steps. And there's over 20,000 stitches. So I'm on 0 of all of them because I haven't started yet. And it tells me how many minutes are for each step. So this is only 1 minute, 1 minute, 6 minutes, 1 minute, and then it's going to keep going as I go down. So now the design is set up to go. Now I need to set my machine up to do what I want it to do. So here's my thread. This is not the first thread I need, so I want to take this off. I'm going to need this same color later, but actually the first, so this is why I print these out. So this is for applique. So this is my position stitch. This is my tack down stitch. And I set it up in the machine, or I'm sorry, in Brilliance, so that brilliant blue will always be a positioning stitch and fluorescent pink will always be a tack down stitch. So, and then anything else will be the actual color that I need. So I don't actually have to do brilliant blue or fluorescent pink. I can do whatever color I want because it's not going to be seen. It's going to be underneath of the fabric later on. So to make things easier for myself so I don't have to keep switching the thread, these two, I'm just going to do it under bubblegum pink because that's my first actual satin stitch. So if you see, I don't know if you can see, this is kind of grayed out, and then you see how this is dark around the edge compared to these. That means that that's going to be the satin stitch that goes around my number 2. So that's how I know. So here's all my prepared applique fabrics. So I know that this is the first one that I'm going to do is this rainbow, pastel rainbow. Okay, so I'll have that ready. But I did jump ahead a bit because what I want to do first is change out my needle. I've used this needle a couple times, and since this is a very like involved design, I want to have a nice fresh needle. So I got these from Amazon, and if you look on Angela's page and any of her channel videos, she has a link to her items that she uses from Amazon. Please click that, and it'll tell you all these different materials that you need, that you use for applique. So these Oregon needles, I remember when I bought them, it said that there were 10 in a pack, 10 needles. And I think it cost, I want to say like $10 or $14. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a lot just for 10 needles, but whatever. I need them, so I got them. I didn't realize it was 10 for this one pack, and then there's 10 in here. So really it was 100 needles. So it's not bad at all. If you see it says 100 pieces. And I'm still on the first pack. I haven't even gotten more than that. I haven't used more than that. So it's a good deal. When you open it up, it looks like bubble gum. But just be very careful because the needles are not only sensitive, but they're very sharp. So I know that's the new needle I'm going to use. Now first I have to get this needle out of here. Your machine comes with a little handy dandy pouch and this little tool's in there. So go ahead and grab that tool out, and you're going to use this screw right here. You see this screw? So you're going to put your flat ends into there, and you're going to lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. So you're going to turn to the left and hold your needle a little bit because it's going to come out eventually. Okay, see how it's loose? So I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. So even though this needle is still good, it hasn't broken, I just want something to be nice and sharp, and it'll make my design look a lot better. So I can go ahead and throw this away. And I usually try and wrap it up in something so I don't hurt myself later. Okay, now I put the new needle in, and if you look, there's a rounded side. You flip it over, and then there's a flat side. Your flat side goes to the back. Your rounded side goes facing you. And you're just going to push it right up where the other one came out. And I don't like to touch the bottom of the needle, so a lot of times I use this to push it up. My hands are a little sweaty right now, so it's slipping. Okay. Loosen it a little bit more, and usually you can lift it up. And like I said, you should be able to lift this up. The bottom of the needle should definitely be higher than this. I don't know what that's called. But that thing. So if you're holding it like this, that should push it up higher. And then you want to start tightening it. Remember, righty-tighty. So turn it to the right, and then use your little key here to tighten it up. Okay, so now that's in there nice and sturdy. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and thread my machine. I'm going to use this bubble gum pink first, like I mentioned. I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. Now with these short cones, the machine also comes with this little attachment, and it helps it so it doesn't get stuck. Always use that for these little cones. That's the best advice I can give you, is use that thing. So now I'm going to go ahead and thread it. So from number 1 down, number 2 down, turn at number 3, come up. Now this is number 4. So if you start off to the right, turn it to the left, and it'll hook. There's a hook inside. So as long as you're following along the edges, it'll hook. So bring it back down. Now if you'll see, way down here is number 6. Go ahead, a lot of times it takes 2 fingers. Go ahead and hook that in there. So that's number 6. make sure you can see number 6 really good. Okay, now bring it back up. Here's number 7. And then if you look over here is number 8. There's number 8. So pull it, and number 8 will cut it for you. Cut. So it's still here on number 7. This is number 9. So this lever, this is what's going to thread the needle. So you're going to pull it down just like that, and it's threaded. So if you look real close down here, you'll see that it's a loop. So you're going to go ahead and pull it out, and you'll see that it's threaded into the needle. Put this through this hole and pull it out, and boom, your machine is threaded. Also, my bobbin is already full. I buy pre-wound bobbins. That's also on Angela's list. But if you can look, my bobbin's already full, so I'm not going to mess with this. I could probably do that another day and show you how to change the bobbin thread. But my bobbin is good. It's not like sewing where your bobbin thread has to match your upper thread. So I have pink thread up here. Mind you, this is embroidery thread. You cannot use regular sewing machine thread in embroidery. It's not going to work. You need embroidery thread. And I use Madeira poly something. Madeira poly. If you look on their website, you'll see the poly. And they're nice, and they have like a nice shine to them. Angela has a video where she talks about a lot of different colors that she uses. So anyways, so this is embroidery thread up here, and then you have embroidery bobbin thread down here, and it can just be white. You really don't need another color unless you're doing like black material. You can do like black bobbin thread, but I haven't had to do that yet. I just always use the white thread, and I'm good. Okay, so now I'm all nice and threaded. So that's the first main step, is my machine is ready to go. But now I need my material to be ready to go. Okay, so this is my absolutely least favorite part of embroidery, is hooping and stabilizers. When I can finally upgrade to one of those big fancy machines, multi-needle machines, then I won't have to have all these problems as much. But for now, I have a regular old hoop, and I have to hoop this. So the whole purpose of the hoop is basically, this is what attaches to here. This is the arm, and this moves back and forth this way and that way, and with the programming, that's what creates your design, basically. So you have to properly put whatever you're embroidering, which is this shirt, in the hoop in order for your design to be lined up correctly. So that's why it's so important to have it in there correctly. The problem is, it's a pain in the ass to do this, okay? Plus, you have to put your stabilizer in there. So this is a no-no, but this is Tearaway Stabilizer. You'll see why I like the Tearaway Stabilizer at the end, but really, I should be using Cutaway Stabilizer. And basically, Cutaway is just thicker, and it'll make your design better. So if you want to be a rebel like me, you can get Tearaway. If you want to be a good person and do things right, then you get the Cutaway. I also use, this is water-soluble stabilizer on top, and this will help so your stitches don't start sinking into the shirt. And if you've ever done an embroidery and you see like it's like white stuff in between your stitches, that's what it is. They're sinking. So it's best to use water-soluble stabilizer on top. And the reason why it's called that is because it dissolves in water. Or you can just tear it away at the end. So here's my hoop. Now the big part, the part that attaches to the arm, goes on the bottom. The shirt goes next. So remember how we folded it in half. Now we're going to unfold it. And we still see how we still have that marking nice and clear. I'm going to have to turn this inside out. Now my tag goes to the back. So this is the front, because this, remember, this is the front of the shirt, and this is where I want my design to show up. So when I turn this inside out, I want the tag to be in the back, because this is still the back of the shirt. So this is the front of the shirt, just inside out. So I want my stabilizer attached here. Okay? So I'm going to use this basting adhesive, spray and bond. It's a temporary bond. Shake it up a little bit. Shake it up. And spray it. Usually I do it outside, but my sister's right there. I don't want to spray her with it. just spray it a bit. So now it makes it a bit sticky. And then the side that's sprayed, I'm going to put it down on my shirt. So these sheets are big enough for a 5x7. It has to be bigger than your hoop. You have to have on the sides, on each side, you have to have some left over. So once that's on there, nice, I'm going to go ahead and pull it right side again. So now, here's the part of the shirt where I want my design. And there is stabilizer behind it. Now, I can't just stick this on here as is. Because then it'll go through, the embroidery will go through both sides and the shirt will be closed shut. But you want to still be able to wear it. So, I'm going to go ahead and put this inside the shirt. Now your hoops usually come with one of these guys and it shows you where your middle lines are. I'm going to cut a piece of water soluble stabilizer, big enough, because this is going to go on top. And now I'm going to start putting this guy here. Now, if you notice, these little notches show you your middle. So you want to line up your notches with the line on your shirt. And then you can also use this guy to do the same thing. But with everything else you got going on here, it makes it a little harder to see. So this is the hard part. I hate this part because you really want to make sure that it's lined up correctly. Otherwise your design is going to be off center or it's going to be crooked or both. And then your stuff's not going to look good. So I'll line up my first notch here with the line on the back. And then this one here, and use that as a starting point. Now I do want to put my hoop basically all the way up here to the collar. You can't go past the collar, obviously, because there is a little bit of a safety zone here where it doesn't embroider, but then it's going to start pretty much after that. And I have a pretty big design, and it's a small shirt, so I want to start up as high as I can. So when I set this down now, I can see how far off I am. So if you see, this right here is pretty lined up, but this right here is way far off. So basically my design would be like super crooked. Also, if it won't let you push all the way down, that means you have to loosen this more. Don't get discouraged if it takes you 20, 30, 50 times. Because it's a pain. It really is. If multi-needle machines didn't cost like upwards of $8,000, I would have just went straight to that and skipped this guy. But yeah, that's a lot of money. And we're in a pandemic. Usually I edit all this out, but I'm letting you guys see the struggle. So that when you struggle, you don't feel as bad. Okay, so before anything else, before I lose this, I'm going to go ahead and tighten as much as possible, for the most part. Because this will keep it, so it's not going nowhere. And then what I need to do is go ahead and start pulling, not just the fabric, but also my stabilizer. Especially up here, if you see, I kind of losing it a bit. You want to pull your fabric a bit, but don't pull it too tight, because then you'll run into more problems. If it's too loose, you got problems. If it's too tight, you got problems too. Either way, hooping and stabilizers are nothing but problems. And then just always kind of look at it. Make sure it looks good. If you notice like it's all off to the side, then, you know, obviously you need to fix it. It's better fixing it now, even though you're like upset and angry with it, than doing it later and it's too late and you already ruined the whole shirt. Okay. I think it's good enough. We're going to call it a day, and that's my hoop. Okay, So now that the hard part is done, we can go to the fun part and actually start embroidering. So first, you don't want to start embroidering right now because it's going to end up going through both sides. So you're going to have to flip this up and over the hoop. So that this is your embroidering area, and then it won't go through to the other side. Now the problem with this is because it's small, your shirt's small, the hoop's small, you have to babysit it. So that's what's not fun about having a single needle machine like this. Basically, it can embroider throughout the whole thing, but you have to hold it back like this and babysit it. Now if you have a nice fancy multi-needle machine, you can basically just put it on there and let it go and it'll be fine. But for us little guys, that's what we got to do for now. So bring it close. Once you have it flipped like that, don't have it too bunched up because then it won't fit underneath the needle. So you want to push it underneath the needle. So you have 2 inserts here and 2 screws, and then you have this. So hook one side, hold this back, hook the other side. So actually hold this back first. Hook, hook, and let go. And now it's on there. Okay, so now that that's on here, now you pull your shirt back and away from the needle. And so you have to hold it like that, basically. So my thread is set. If this button, so if you have a PE800, I can't say the same for other embroidery machines, but at least this one, which is usually the most popular for beginners, if this button is red, that means no, basically. It's not, if I press it, it says lower the presser foot level. So hit OK. So that means this is the presser foot. It's not lowered, so it's not going to embroider. So your lever is right here in the back. Once you lower it, you see it turns green. That means go. That means if I press this button, it's going to start embroidering with the first step, the next step in the process, which in this case is the first step because we haven't started. So this step, and you could see it here, it shows it. And if you look at our step guide, Brilliant Blue, remember I set that as being the placement stitch because it's telling you where to place your material. So it's going to do the big number 2, okay? So here we go. So the PE800 automatically stops after every step for the most part. Every time that there's a thread change, it stops. So that's why it's important if you have embroidery and you're setting it up. Every time you want to put a different color because that's what signals the machine to stop. So that's why I automatically put Brilliant Blue as my placement stitch, Fluorescent Pink as my tack down stitch, and then every time I see those, first of all, it tells the machine to stop, but second of all, I know that, okay, that's a placement stitch, that's a tack down stitch. So, as you can see, it shows me the number 2, so it shows me where to place my embroidery vinyl. So I'm going to cut this string here so it's not too much in the way. And then here is my embroidery vinyl. So I can lift up, and see it's red now because I lifted it up, my presser foot. So now I'm going to go ahead and place it and make sure that my hole number 2 is covered. And also I'm going to place it so that I can see all the colors I want to see. So this is important, for example, if you're doing a fabric that has like characters on it, like Disney princesses, and you want to make sure all the princesses that you want are going to show in your design. So you have to make sure you place it where you need it, if that makes sense. So I want this yellow to show because it's going to match the tutu I'm going to make. And I want the blue and the pink to definitely show. So maybe I'll go up a little bit. Okay. So now I go ahead and lower my presser foot once again. Also make sure it's straight because you don't want your line being all crooked, like since this is like a rainbow. And now it's going to do a tack down stitch because it's going to tack down the vinyl to the shirt. So that's done, so I can go ahead and raise my presser foot. And now I'm going to take this off. So I'm going to hold down this button here to release it, and I release one and then the other. So then I start pulling it forward and just being careful not to knock the needle too much. You don't want to break it. Kind of pull this. See, when the shirt bunches up, it's harder to pull it. Okay, I'm going to get it off. Push this back. So now, since this is a big thing here, I'm going to go ahead and flip the shirt to make it easier on me. Okay, so now you see our number 2, and you see I got my yellow in there, I got my pink, my lines are pretty straight, so it's what I wanted. So what I'm going to do now, go ahead and use these scissors. I think they're called Applique Scissors, but they're curved. You can see they're curved, and it makes it easier to kind of dig in there. So what you want to do now is you're going to cut all around all this stitching, but you want to cut as close as possible to it, because afterwards, if you left too much, and after you do your satin stitch at the end, if there's too much of that material on there, it's going to show through and it's going to look bad. It's going to look real tacky. You're not going to have nice crisp lines. So the way I usually do it is I pull it away. So I start cutting just to get down there. And then once I get down there, you see how you can see the stitching? You can see the stitching there? So that's where I just make sure you don't cut the stitches. Don't cut the stitches. But cut as close as you can get. See, I cut the stitches a little bit, but because I'm trying to get close. And really, that's a nice big piece I could save. So you see how I got really close, barely left anything out. And then you just want to do the same thing all the way around. Okay, so I did cut a little too much in that corner. I left a little bit there, so let me get that. But since the satin stitch is going to go next, the satin stitch is the thick border, it should hopefully cover that up. It shouldn't really be too much of a problem, but still just be careful. But more importantly than anything, don't cut the t-shirt material. Like, I know that sounds really basic, but it can happen easily. So just be careful. And when I go, if you notice, when I go into somewhere like this where it's like a little cove, I use some straight scissors to kind of cut a slit in there first to make it easier, so that, because of the curve. And then you'll see there's always a lot of little threads and stuff. I just keep a lint roller handy and just kind of roll it in between each step. Now let's watch the satin stitch. So what just happened is my needle broke. If you can see, it's kind of stuck down here. Always be careful because that piece can go flying, but it's stuck down here. So the first step when this happens is to raise your needle. And now you can see, there's my little piece right there, the tip of the needle. So you want to carefully dispose of that. Along with the rest of the needle. So it happens. Go ahead and get your tool back out and a new needle. Now let's rethread it. But I want to kind of go backwards a little bit because I might have messed something up by not getting it done. So I'm going to come to my machine. And actually, I learned this tip from somebody on, I think it was Angela's Facebook group. This little button right here, press that. Now this is to go either backward or forward a certain amount of stitches. So this is to go backward 1 stitch, 10 stitches, 100 stitches. And this is to go forward 1, 10, or 100. So I'm going to go backward 10 stitches. So that should do it, honestly, because it wasn't broken for too long. Now sometimes if it breaks and it keeps going for a while, you might want to do like 100 stitches a few times. But in this case, I'm only gonna do 10 because I caught it right away. So I went back 10 stitches and I click OK, and it just kind of updates where I am in the design. So now I can go ahead and lower my presser foot. It's green, and we should be good to go. So here's my satin stitch. And if you see where it kind of jumps and it skips, it's because that's where like the dogs are gonna go. And so since the dogs are applique, you don't want to do like applique with a satin stitch on top of another satin stitch because it gets kind of like bumbled up. It doesn't look good. So I can just kind of get rid of the ones that are hanging. But like I said, it's going to be covered by the dogs, except for maybe this one. And of course you can always fix them at the end. But alright, so now we can look at the list. So all of that we've done, that's only been the first 3 steps. And as you see, we have a total of 30 steps. So they're not all going to be as long, but you know. So the next one, again, it's brilliant blue, so we know, I set it that way, so we know it's already a position stitch, and then fluorescent pink is a tack down stitch. But then you see it goes back to brilliant blue, fluorescent pink. So they're not, you're not putting it's not going to do the satin stitch is what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry. It's not going to do the satin stitch right afterwards, but it'll do it later. So it's fine. So yeah, as you see, there's a lot of steps. What I've showed you is the basics is how it's going to keep going. So at this point, I'm kind of just going to go through it because otherwise we'll be here forever and this would be like a 3-hour long video. So I'm just going to keep going, and I'll speed it up, and then if I have something specific to say at some point, obviously I'll stop it. But stay tuned anyway. And we will finish this shirt together.
Lo que muestras es solo amor, es tan fuerte que solo vos te adueñaste del corazón.
Okay, so welcome back. see, day is now day 2 because I just got really tired last night. I had to take care of the baby and everything, so I decided to just cut it, just leave it where it's at, come back today with fresh mind and body, even though I'm still tired because it's been a long day too. But here we are, I'm back. I'm gonna finish the shirt right now. Now, one thing I was able to do that I didn't completely know about, so I didn't like the way something stitched out, like it skipped some stitches. So I'm like, I wonder if I can just go back, because you know how we did earlier when when the needle broke, I did like go back 10 stitches, things like that. Well, there's more. So I did go back right now, and I re-stitched around his mouth right here and some in his eyes. And to do that, I came over here to the little stitch button, and it shows me, you know, if you want to go back or forward, how many stitches, 1, 10, or 100. But also, what it let me do is, if you notice over here, it has a negative and a plus with a little like thread. If you hit that, look what happens in this top corner. See how it says 12 out of 30? If you hit that button, the minus button, oops, now it says step 11 out of 30. So basically those numbers either go back or they advance a whole step. And by step, I mean, so see, that's step 11 out of 30. If you look at our paper, step 11 is here to super white, and it's part of the eyes, stitching the eyes. So you can just go forward or backward whole steps and not just amounts of stitches. So for example, right now, since I messed with that, I need to go back to the step that I'm actually on, which is step 17, which is the placement stitch for the other dog. I'm sorry, I don't know these dogs' names. I haven't watched this show yet. My daughter is 3 months old and she's stuck on Coco Melon. So I want to hit the plus and advance it all the way. Hopefully you can see that without the glare. To step 17. So now I'm back up at step 17. Here's 17 on my list, which is the placement stitch for the other dog. Okay, so step 17, so I can just hit OK. So now I'm gonna hit go, and now boom, it just moved it all the way along to the beginning of that stitch, that placement stitch. Coincidence.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm here with the scars that you left me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm dancing alone in the dark to forget. I'm here with the scars that you left me. I need to know how you're sleeping next to her. Tell me what you're up to her. Te extraño.
So now it's all done. It's still in the hoop. If you turn it over and back, you can go ahead and just cut some of the threads that have like excess bulk to them. You don't have to cut everything, but just cut some of this stuff so it's not like so bulky. Like see here, you can only do so much, but and then always hit it with the lint roller. Don't spend too much time on it because it's going to get covered anyway. So now you can flip it, and here's the front finished product. You see I cut all the lines for this dog, but I still have some lines for this dog and for the lettering, so I'm going to go ahead and cut those now. You can flip it the right side out, and so you see we have the water soluble stabilizer in here. Now this is actually really thin, so you can tear it right off. If there's any parts that aren't coming off, you can hit it with some water and it'll just dissolve. But otherwise you can just start tearing it lightly, gently. But this, you do want to go in and get everything. Okay, so the last step is to put on something called Tender Touch. I know there are different brands. This is the main one, Psyche. And basically what this is it goes on the inside of the shirt so that all of these threads don't irritate the kid's skin.